Okay, empowered leaders, we're so excited to be here today to talk about the presentation. All right, we're going to focus today on the 30-second story, which is one of the most powerful things that we can do. A dog just ran through my yard. I don't know whose it is, but I'm outside and I'm loving it. So we're going to just go with it today on this call. Okay, so the presentation. You've connected with people, and now what? They're interested. They're like, okay, yeah, so tell me more about it. And then you freeze. The presentation is so simple, but yet can feel so scary because it's so natural for us to connect with people all the time. Like, oh, how are you doing? Oh, I like your shoes. Oh, tell me about your kids, all these things, right? But then once they ask about Isagenix and once they're asking why we're so excited, we tend to clam up. And so what Isagenix has done is they've developed tools to help us really be able to share our story seamlessly and be able to do it effectively and compliantly. All very important tactics, okay? So we're going to go through all of those here really quick on the call. But think about it like this. Like, what if you had a way to share your story and you knew it was going to be effective, you knew it was going to be timely, you knew it was going to be quick, you weren't going to word vomit on people, and you knew that it was going to honor Isagenix for the gift that it is without endangering the company, because we want to be really compliant when we share. Wouldn't that be super exciting to have that tool? And so that's what Isagenix has given us, and we spent a lot of time doing that at University in Action. A bunch of us just went to the one in Vancouver, and we're going to have a few of those people share tonight. So excited for you to hear what they learned. And then there's another one coming up in Chicago that a bunch of us are going to. Anyone going to Chicago for University in Action? Yes. Okay, so excited about that one. Okay, so that's what you're going to hear about all that tonight. You're also going to hear from a couple people I talked about who went to University in Action. You're going to hear their finished product, their 30-second story, so you can get your timer out, and then they're going to walk you through the process of how they actually got to that place. Okay, all very important. But first, it's important that we're going to go through the fundamentals. All right, so how do you share compliantly? And I love this page in the workbook that Isagenix gives us, and I'm just going to give you the 4 things that they give us, 4 tips. Okay, and I'll take a picture of this and put it in Empowered to Lead. So take notes, but the picture of what I'm going to actually say to you, I will put in the group. Okay, so it's important when you're sharing your story that it is accurate and truthful. Okay, so don't feel like you have to make up numbers or feel like you have to embellish in any way. Your story is beautiful and perfect just the way that it is. And if you feel like you're not going to be able to relate to someone because you didn't lose 100 pounds, you only lost 20, share authentically so that you can sleep at night. But there are so many, hundreds of people who have lost 100 pounds or more. Share their story. If we all share accurately and truthfully, we will have plenty of accurate and compliant stories to choose from in our pool in order to share with other people. Okay, so it's important that every single one of us, and we're holding each other accountable to acting in integrity all the time. You're giving reasonable expectations. This is so important. If I say, in my first experience with Isagenix, I lost 9 pounds in my very first go at it. Okay, now I could also tell you that that was in my first 9 days, but I want to be very realistic with people and say it's different for everybody. That's why that disclaimer always says these results are not typical, because everyone's bodies are different. And the more we learn about the body and how amazing it is, the more that we understand this is not something that is a one-size-fits-all, right? Because our bodies are not one-size-fits-all. Our bodies are systems, and that's why Isagenix is designed as a system to serve our bodies that are also designed as a system. Our bodies are the miracle, okay? So we need to give accurate expectations, reasonable expectations, because we want to help people understand their bodies are the miracle. Isagenix is just, that's it, okay? Never suggest that any Isagenix product treat, cure, or prevent any disease. We have to be so careful to protect our company. If we make claims like that, we could be shut down. And I don't know about you, but if anyone shuts down this company, heads are gonna roll, okay? This is providing for my family. This is saving my body every single day. I want to protect this company as much as possible. And then never promise, imply, or guarantee financial or physical results. Again, it's like sharing the reasonable outcome. Okay, so never promise anything. You can say you are going to feel different. You are going to notice changes. Things like that are so acceptable to say. And so just make sure that you're incorporating that into your verbiage. All right, really important. Okay, and then isaproduct.com, isagenix.com, and isagenixhealth.net. Great resources to have on hand, just so that if anybody has questions, instead of you attempting to share it in a way that's compliant, you can go right to the source, because everything Isagenix puts out has been reviewed by their compliance board, by their lawyers. So we know it's safe. Okay, so even things that you pull from other sites, be very careful. A lot of associates have their own websites. Unless it links directly to an Isagenix approved site, I wouldn't source it unless it's like verbatim and you know it. But do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, be very careful so that we're taking care of our company. Okay, so those are the fundamentals. We get all the nitty gritty stuff out of the way. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to hear from a few people who attended University in Action and got training from the David Wood. Has anybody ever been to see David Wood in person, been to any of his trainings? Phenomenal. His podcasts are amazing. He's just amazing. And so these three beautiful people are going to share based on what they were trained on from David Wood at University in Action earlier this month. We're in May? Yeah, in May. And so what they're going to do is they're going to share their story, and then they're going to take a couple minutes and they're going to share the process with you so that you understand as you're developing your story how important it is to embrace the process, because this does not just happen in 30 seconds. You don't get it right the first time. All right, and they're going to explain that. Okay, so the first person I'd love to have share is Lori Bryn. So Lori, go ahead and unmute yourself. And Lori, will you please share your 30-second story with us?
I'd love to. So before Isagenix, I was living paycheck to paycheck and feeling like crap doing it. Can I say crap?
Absolutely.
I was exhausted all the time and felt terrible physically. I was overwhelmed with stress over financial issues and health issues, and I lost sleep over this constantly. I was introduced to Isagenix by a friend, and I've been using the products for 2.5 years. Since then, I'm now building an income-producing asset, and I feel better than I ever have before. I have so much more energy, and I feel amazing, and I sleep fantastic now. And stress over financial and health issues has simply vanished. Now I'm passionate about showing people that they don't have to live paycheck to paycheck and feel like crap while they're doing it.
I love it. For those of you who don't know Lori, this story is like such a reflection of her personality. She is like all about you don't have to feel like crap. Don't let yourself feel like crap. Because that's truly how she's so authentic. That's truly how she feels, and she doesn't want other people to feel that way either. And so Lori was joking earlier that her 30-second story is more like 32, 37 seconds. You guys, it's better than 5 minutes, right? Anyone ever verbal vomited on people before? Okay. So important. So Lori, will you please take a couple minutes and share about your process of developing your story?
So my process was, especially after going to the UIA training, and David talked about having sort of a title kind of for that starts out your 30-second story, 3 things that you're essentially struggling with when you started Isagenix, and then what happened as a result. And always tie your 3 results back to your 3 original issues. And then, why you're sharing it now. And for me, my foundation really was the whole idea of I was living paycheck to paycheck and feeling like crap doing it. And I know that so many of my friends are doing that. I worked in the corporate world for 29 years. Yes, I'm still living paycheck to paycheck. And to me, that's humiliating. It really is. So that was my foundation that I started with. So from there, I just built on, okay, so I was doing that. As I was doing that, I literally was exhausted all the time. I felt terrible. And I just started building on those things that essentially I was suffering through during that period of time. Enter Isagenix, and then now everything has changed. So that's kind of my process.
I love it, Lori. So when you were going through that at the event, was there any particular part of developing your story that was harder than others?
To some degree, kind of remembering what it was I was suffering with. I knew I was suffering. A lot of people say, I didn't know how bad I felt until Isagenix. I knew how bad I felt. Really pinpointing what those things were that I could actually express that would be relatable to other people, and then skinnying it down. I could go on for an hour about what I was suffering with, but just to skinny it down to a few things that really had impact.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys, as you're hearing this, we're going to go through and develop your 30-second story at the end of this call. Okay. So please, as you're listening to these examples, start taking notes of things that you're like, okay, so she's talking about pain before Isagenix, physically and financially. Now, obviously in our story, we don't use the word pain, but you, for your own reference, what were those sources of pain beforehand? Okay, so start jotting notes about yourself. Maybe there's some things that Lori said that you're like, oh my gosh, I can totally relate. Write it down. Okay, that's so important. All right, Lori, thank you so much for sharing. That was awesome. Okay, so the next person I'm going to have share is Miss Molly Trotter. So Molly, will you please share your 30-second story with us?
Yes, Rachel, thank you so much for asking for me to share my 30-second story. I'd be happy to do it. So before Isagenix, I was working a job that had crazy hours, really low pay, and honestly didn't give me the time off to really enjoy and appreciate what life in other parts of the world had to offer. I was introduced to Isagenix by my ex-boyfriend, and I'm so happy that he introduced me to this life-changing, company, because of it, so far I've been able to pay bills faster and get out from under the debt that I was compiling from the job I wasn't making enough money from. And honestly, I'd feel so selfish if I didn't share this gift with other people, just knowing what Isagenix has done in my life and what it will continue to do going forward.
I love that, Molly. And it's so cool because even though I know Molly's backstory, to hear it in a 30-second, just really tightened up, it's so powerful. So even though I know all the little nitty-gritty details, that is not something, this is one thing that David would talk to us about. And Molly, I want you to elaborate on this more. But people don't care about our stories. They care about their own. But you need to give them enough to intrigue them to want to know more. And that's when you get to share the details. Like, there are things about Molly's story that may not relate to me. But if she's sharing Isagenix with me and I come up with things that she can relate to, of course she can go into a little bit more detail, but only share what you know you can reach a broad amount of people with, but that's still powerful. And we're going to go through that a little bit more here. So Molly, can you please share with us, as you were developing the story at University in Action, what were some of those kind of defining moments that you went through of things that were maybe kind of challenging to figure out about your story, or what did that process feel like for you?
Well, Rachel, you hit it right on the head, because my story, to give a brief background for the people on this call, is I was a news anchor and reporter, and I finished that career in Spokane. Now, that doesn't resonate, or, it's not really duplicatable for people to really feel what that feels like, because it's a really small industry. Now, trying to come up with a 30-second story was actually really hard for me, because you want to be duplicatable. You want to be able to reach people and have it connect with them. But where I was coming from, it was really hard to make that 30-second story. Like you say, Rachel, the verbal vomit, I was doing that all the time because they weren't in the same industry that I was in. And so I had to be really boil it down to the nitty gritty, like the small bare bone details. Okay, I really wasn't making the money that I knew I deserved. I didn't have the time off that anybody should really have. And there were certain things that I know people could connect with that. And so I really had to boil it down. And honestly, you guys, if you're like, oh, this 30-second story, I just don't know how to make it, it's going to take time. It took me a lot longer than I thought it would, trying to create this 30-second story. But once I got it, I felt good. And it was like, finally, I can now reach people and really be on their level, because a lot of us have jobs that don't pay us that well, or we don't get the time off we deserve, or crazy hours. But, not everybody has been in the news industry. So it was very, very difficult for me to really, get through those channels. But the best part is what I really learned at UIA was just really talking to different people, getting different perspectives, and then people just really be open to being coached. There's so many people out there that just legitimately want to help you. Listen to their ideas. They have, there's a lot of people that have great points. And so I was just really open to just, listening to others and just develop that story. And then it finally came. And like I said, it was like, woohoo, it's here.
And you just know too, right, Molly? It's like you say it. And even we watched Amanda on stage for like 2 hours. David Wood just tore her apart and then put her back together right in front of us. And it was amazing. But I love the process that we got to watch. And we took videos of that. And I'm sure we can post them in Empowered to Lead, so you guys can watch the process that she went through. But it was really cool because she would tell a part of her story, and David would fill in the blanks, and she's like, yeah, that's good. He's like, no, not good. Like, use your words. She's like, he's like, no, not fine. Use your words. And then she would start to say it, and then a word would come out, and she's like, no, not right, really. And then she'd say another word, and then it was like her face lit up. And right, Molly, as you were talking about, it's like all of a sudden the story comes together. You just know. You're like,
I'm gonna go inside.
You're like, boom.
Right. And the one last thing that I would say, Rachel, is the biggest part for me creating a 30-second story is that, I am working on my physical one because I have different ways I want to tweak it, but that came so easily to me as developing that physical story and what Isagenix has done physically. The one that I really wanted to push was the financial part, because if you never share that with people, they'll never know maybe that that's an option. And for me, I wasn't scared of sharing it. I just wasn't educating myself and putting myself out there like that. And now it's like, I love, the physical part of it, super easy to share, but the financial part, I'm so fired up because I took the time to develop that 30-second story for the financial part of my life and what Isagenix has done, that it's really put a fire under me to really start, really share that more than I ever have before. So that has been super fruitful for me.
Absolutely. Well, and what's neat about that is when you think about anytime you feel timid and like you don't want to share something, it's probably because you don't feel educated, or you don't feel like you have anything worthy of saying, or that you don't know as much as the other person. If you practice something and it becomes just ingrained in your DNA, like, well, yeah, I can share with you better because boom, here's my story. So that's what's been really powerful about these 30-second stories. So Molly, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so I want to bring in Jacqueline to share her 30-second story, and same thing with her feedback. Again, you guys take notes. If you're hearing parts of these people's stories that resonate with you, jot it down. Okay, because we're going to give you an opportunity to share on that here in a second. So Jacqueline, go ahead and share, and I'm going to mute on my end just for a second because the ice cream truck's driving by. Don't get excited, Ellie. All right, Jacqueline, please share your 30-second story with us.
Awesome, love to. So you guys are going to get a lot of financial stories today, which is pretty good because usually you just hear the physical transformation. So this is kind of nice to get a few different financial stories. But before I was introduced to this product, I was just financially overwhelmed. My husband and I were living paycheck to paycheck. We isolated from people because going out cost money, and we never saw each other because we were always working. I was introduced to Isagenix by my friend Rachel, and I've only been with the company for 3.5 months, but I can already breathe easier. We have a little extra money each month. I get to spend my time connecting with people and making new friends. And best of all, I get to build this business with my husband. And now I want to tell everyone because everybody deserves this opportunity.
Amen. Oh, guys, I get chills. Okay. I know, it's amazing. And Jacqueline's going to work on a different story that she can share with us maybe later this week because her story just keeps evolving and getting awesome.
Completely different now.
Yeah, very different, but all good things, you guys. So I'm excited for her to share more about that later this week. But what's so neat about this, and like what Jacqueline was sharing, is how relatable is it to not spend time with your spouse or significant other because you're always working? How relatable is it to be paycheck to paycheck? How relatable is it to feel like you have to say no to social things because you're like, man, a movie is like $20 for both of us to go, and that's if we sneak in our own snacks. Like, all that stuff, people are laughing because they get it. Like, this is all things that we deal with. And so Jacqueline could have said, before Isagenix, I was working, not making a lot of money working at an eating disorder clinic. It's like, details are important so people can connect with you, but that's not everybody's story. Just like with Molly and being a news anchor, a news reporter. Can I just see a show of hands? How many people in here are either working as a news anchor or a news reporter or working in an eating disorder clinic? Okay, how many people know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck? How many people know what it's like to work at a job that you're not in love with? Okay, how many people know what it's like to not see someone that's important to you because you're working too much? So many things. So your story's super important. Amen, Lori. We like to drop a lot of pens in this team call. We're all about the mic drops. But what I think is so important about this, and David Wood just drove this home every single day that we were working on this 30-second story, is you have to make it relatable but powerful. So take your story, tell your story, but then you have to take out the details that most people can't relate to. Okay, so that's what's really important about this. So think about those things when you're thinking about your financial story. What is your financial story? Now, what can most people relate to? Paycheck to paycheck, not seeing your loved ones, all that stuff. Everybody has either lived through that, is living through that, or knows someone who is. Everybody can relate to it, unless you've been living under a rock, but then they're not on the team call. Okay, so everybody can relate. Okay, So while the ice cream truck drives by again, Jacqueline, can you please talk a little bit more about the process you went through during this event?
So for me, because I am so new to the company, creating a story was really difficult, actually. I had to talk with probably 5 different partners in the group trying to figure out how to even create a story that would be my own. And so the financial one was the only one that really fit for me because I don't have a physical transformation or anything crazy like that. But I want to give you guys a really simple formula. So this, I don't know if you can read it, is the formula. It basically says before Isagenix, and then you list 3 things. And then you say, I was introduced to Isagenix by, and make it really personal. So instead of saying this random chick Rachel that I met at church, you would say my really good friend Rachel.
And you guys, we're gonna go through this more after I get towards the end of the call. So don't feel like you have to just go ahead and listen, be present with Jacqueline. Don't feel like you have to jot a bunch of notes down right this second.
And then you would say, I have been with the company for however long, or using the products for however long, or something like that. And then as a result, I am now, and you would do like 3 statements that negate the first 3 problems you had. And then I now believe that everybody needs to know about Isagenix because they just do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Okay, yeah. So we're not going to hold back on you guys anymore. We're going to jump into the 30-second story a little bit more right now. So Jacqueline just gave you the rundown of it. So on your paper, what you're going to do is you're going to write before. Okay, so you have a couple ways that you can do this. So most people say before Isagenix, or like Jacqueline used in her example, before I was introduced to this company. And it depends. Like if people are asking you questions, and we never want to feel like we're hiding Isagenix, but we do want to create curiosity. And so if you're just like talking to somebody in the grocery store line, and you know that you're not going to be able to like really dig in deep with them other than maybe share your 30-second story, you can totally just say, you know what, before I was introduced to this opportunity, blah, 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 blah. Or if they're asking you about, you know, the bar that you're eating, or, you know, I have people ask me when I will purposely shake up some hydrate in a cup for Caleb while we're waiting in the checkout line if it's too long. So I'm like, hey, bud, do you want some juice? And I just like pour it in there and shake it up and hand it to him. And moms are always like, oh, what kind of juice is that? I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like all natural, no sweeteners, no dyes. And it's so much cheaper than Gatorade. Like, ugh, you know, and they're always like, oh my gosh, what is it? I'm like, oh, jot your information down. And then I start asking questions. And if they're like, oh yeah, I could just use a boost or this or that, then I can share my energy story. I'm like, okay, before I found these products, I was blah, 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 and go on like that. So again, in a situation like that, you don't necessarily want to like blurt out Isagenix, because between the time that you depart with them at the checkout line and the time that you get to talk to them in 2 days, they could talk to their grumpy neighbor, they could Google it and find some like expert blog of someone who's tried every shake under the sun, which is garbage. I almost said a bad word. Sorry, guys. But I get fired up about this stuff when people are like, my opinion, I have an expert opinion, even though I have an associate's degree in drama, whatever, you know, no offense if you do, but still, you know what I mean? Okay, so before Isagenix, or before whatever introduction that you want to use, remember, you're going to have a few stories to pull. So before Isagenix, I was, and then you're going to come up with 3 things, okay? So if you remember these stories, these are their points of pain. What, before Isagenix, you can pick your health or your finances, whichever story you feel is most on the forefront of your mind right now, just for the sake of practice. What were the things? List the things that you were before Isagenix, okay? And don't make them super, you know, I know Lori talked about like making sure that they're skinny down. You will have time to do that. Right now, just you're taking notes on yourself. Okay, before Isagenix, I was blank, blank, and blank. 3 things, no more than 3 things, and I wouldn't do just one. Okay, so about like 2 or 3 things, depending on how long they are. Fire truck's going by right now too, guys. Okay, and then I was introduced to Isagenix by, and just like Jacqueline said, you want to have some sort of a relationship with this person. So like Molly was introduced to Isagenix by her ex-boyfriend. She wouldn't just say, oh, by Stan. It's like, no, you want to like, what's the relationship? Or like Jacqueline and I literally, like, our meeting is so bizarre, but it would be weird to like share all of that. Like, oh, by this girl who came to a baby shower that I hosted a year ago. That's so random. But Jacqueline and I are friends. She can say with confidence, oh my gosh, my friend Rachel introduced me to these. But by saying my friend, my aunt, my daughter, my whatever, that is telling people that you have a trusted relationship with them and already you're validating. Okay, so that's really important. So before Isagenix, I was 3 things. I was introduced to Isagenix by, okay, and then the 3rd thing is I have been, so using the products, building this business, whatever you want to say it, whatever goes with your story, for how long, okay? Then the 4th thing you're going to write down is, as a result, I am now. The 3 things you wrote down in the beginning, answer those 3 things. Now, some people really struggle with this because they think things like, oh, well, before Isagenix, I was this, this, and this, but I haven't necessarily reached my health goals yet. You know, maybe I'm still trying to lose weight, or maybe I'm still, you know, trying to figure this or that out. Well, you can talk about where you're going with it. You know, so that's important too, being able to say things like, I'm still on my way to losing 100 pounds. And I'm so excited. I've already lost 30 pounds. And again, you don't want to say 30 pounds in 3 days. Like, that's not, be realistic. Remember the fundamentals we talked about in the beginning. Okay, so that's important. But if you're not to where you are, where you want to be yet, you haven't reached your goal yet. I heard that all the time at UIA when we would partner up with people and they're like, I just don't know what to write because I haven't reached my goal yet. But you're here and you know you're going to, so forward speak. Forward speak always, okay? And then, but you want to answer those 3 things that you wrote in the beginning. And then the 5th thing is, I now believe. All right. And I love the ending parts of what these girls had shared. And so Lori, Jacqueline, and Molly, I'm just going to have you share the last thing of your 30-second story, the I now believe part. That's all you got to say. Because I want people to really understand how powerful this closing statement is. So Lori, can you share yours first? Your I now believe.
Yeah, now I'm passionate about showing people that they don't have to live paycheck to paycheck and feel like crap while they're doing it.
Perfect. Molly, what's your I now believe?
Thank you, Rachel. I now believe that there is a better way to provide for myself, help others, and for my future family, and I'm so stoked about it.
I love it. Jacqueline, what's yours?
Now I just want to share with everybody because everybody deserves this opportunity.
Hey, you guys, when you hear those 3, like just those 3 statements, if you didn't hear the rest of that, how powerful is that? There's conviction there. Okay, so this last statement, what do you believe now? Because of this journey that you're on, what do you believe? And here's the thing, don't get hung up if you haven't reached your goals yet financially or for your health. Okay, we never actually reach our goals. We just create new ones. And like, oh, cool, this one came. I'm going to never make goals again. No, we're always creating goals, even financially. If you would have told me a year ago that this is how much that Isagenix would be blessing us with every single week, I would have been so excited about it. But now that we're here, I'm not content. I'm grateful, but I'm continuing on. So my story is always evolving too. But that last statement, what do you believe now? Again, you're forward speaking. What do you believe right now, and how are you going to impact the world with your story? 30 seconds is enough time to make an impact. Okay, that's what you have to understand about how powerful this tool is. Okay, so I want to hear a couple of examples. I think, because I wanted this call to be a little bit shorter, so I think what we're going to do is we're just going to grab a couple examples from people, and then I'm going to close it up, and then we'll go over the team challenge at the end. But I want to make sure that probably in the next 5-10 minutes we'll be able to wrap up. So for the very first part, so before Isagenix, I was, and that's your title. I think Lori was talking about, that's like the title of your story. So before Isagenix, I was exhausted. I was whatever. And so who has one that they'd like to share for before Isagenix? I will pick on people. Jessica, you look like you really wanted to share with me.
Tashi does.
Oh, Tashi does. All right, Tashi and Jessica.
Do you want me to do all 3 or just pick one?
Just your title. So before Isagenix, I was.
I know, but you said to write down 3 things.
Oh, okay, yeah. So go ahead, share all 3 of your things.
Okay, so before Isagenix, I was exhausted, stressed out, and unable to show up as the wife and mom I knew I could be.
Okay, so I love that, especially that last one, because you're putting feeling behind it. Okay, so what I'll encourage you to do is, I was exhausted. What was the second one?
Stressed out.
Stressed out. And so I would, exhausted, how, when, why. You're not going to talk about all those things, but if there's a way you can add like 2 or 3 more words to give it an example. So like, I was so exhausted, I hit snooze, or instead of saying I was so exhausted, you say, I hit snooze 10 times a day or 10 times every morning. So that could take the place of exhausted, like give it a little bit more, what's the word? What is this, you guys? Tangible? What am I doing here? What does this mean? You know what I mean though? Like really like give it a little bit more. That last line, Tashi, is so powerful. Okay? Because I know so many women who wish they could show up better as a wife and a mom. I love it. Okay. The sun is coming into our team call. Love this. All right. Jessica, how are you feeling?
You know what? I'm getting over a cold, but I'm doing okay. It's just been one that's hung on.
Yeah, we're so glad you're here. Do you mind sharing your 3 things that you
Yeah, I will do my best. This is great. I really enjoy this because I think this is an area that I kind of struggle with. Before Isagenix, I had a complete and total brain fog. I would drive and then go, I don't even remember stopping at that stop sign, just wasn't engaged in my life at all. I found myself really irritable and short fused with my kids, and I just felt weak. I mean, I felt I would do the tiniest task, like carrying groceries, and I just felt weak.
Yeah.
And then for me, I was introduced to Isagenix by my good friend.
Hold on, Jessica. So I want to go, just the first 3 things, but I want to go through those really quick. Okay, so the things like feeling tired, but then you gave the example of feeling tired even just from bringing the groceries inside the house. So that tangible, that very like people can grab onto that and relate to that, I would use that. So instead of saying I was so tired all the time, you could just say, even bringing the groceries inside the house wiped me out. Like that could be something like your third one where you're just like, I was so tired all the time. My brain fog was so bad. I could barely remember driving places. And I was so tired that it was exhausting just bringing the groceries inside the house. So it's like, you want to have the feelings, but you also want to have like a little bit of an example, but that's all really good. That's
okay, great.
You can relate to that for sure. Okay. So really quick, does anybody else have 3 that they want to share that they might want some tips on? Tierney, get it, girl.
Okay, it's kind of 2 parts. I put, before Isagenix, I was an exhausted, stressed, and overweight mom of 3 children under the age of 5. I drank a whole pot of coffee by myself every day and still needed a nap in the early afternoon. So, does that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes me tired just hearing it. No, Tierney, I think that's really good. So you guys hear how she gave like tangible examples, like 3 children under the age of 5, and drinking a whole pot of coffee to herself and still needing a nap. I mean, even if you're not somebody who feels that way, like I had an shot today, so I feel pretty stinking good. But even hearing her story, just the like 10 seconds that it took her to say that, I feel how tired she is or was, even though I don't feel tired anymore. Okay, does that make sense? The verbiage that she used? Yeah, that was really good to me.
Thank you.
So you guys keep working on that, and if you need help, part of developing this story, and this isn't part of the team challenge, but this is going to be a part of your challenge as somebody who just really wants to master this. Okay, you're going to work on your 30-second story and then pair up with somebody and just share it with them. Someone in the group, somebody in your life, whatever that is, but I encourage you to find somebody in Empowered to Lead that you can just say, hey, can I share my 30-second story with you? And just, what does it feel like to you? Like, what is some feedback? They don't have to be masters at the 30-second story to be able to help you, but you do need that feedback, because if you're spending 20 seconds on this part, it's too much. Okay, so if you look at it, this first part is a big chunk of that. That could be about 10 seconds. I was introduced by, and I have been using these products for X amount of months or weeks or years. That could be a little under 10 seconds. And then this last part right here, this is a big chunk, you guys. This needs to be at least 10 seconds. Okay, so think about that when you're formatting your story, and reach out and have people to share with. I mean, Lori, how many times did we switch partners that weekend? Like
5 or 6?
Yeah. And we literally would share back and forth like 3 or 4 times, and then he'd switch us partners and we'd do it again. I mean, our notes in these books are horrid. They're like, illegible. I mean, that's, he even said, he gave us all these extra pages to take notes in so that this is a blank copy. My story is actually in the house. But so that we could make a pretty 30-second story on this page. Okay, so I encourage you to do that. Scribble a bunch of notes. Make it messy. Make it whatever you have to do to get those thoughts out. But that's something you're going to work on this week as part of our team challenge, okay? So any other questions? Yeah, Mama Della.
Can I go ahead and do my 3?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Before I was introduced to this opportunity, I was concerned about the source of our foods, where they came from, what was in our foods. And the organic and the local foods cost too much. Couldn't afford them.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mama Della, she came to our house after we got back from University in Action. We went through this as a group a few times, and it was so powerful. But I love her story because I've never heard somebody who that's why they love Isagenix so much. I mean, there's a lot of other reasons, but she has a farm. So they grow a lot of their own food. And so it's a huge concern for her to understand where it's coming from. And we know that not a lot of people share that same concern. And so what I will encourage you to do, Mama Della, is like taking that information, but how can we make it more relatable to people? And so thinking about things like, what do people care about with their food? They don't want to have to read a bunch of labels. We hear that all the time from people. They're like, okay, I don't know what, there's too many syllables on this. There's, you know, whatever, or educating people through your thing. So even if you could say something like, concerned about where our food is coming from, because labels are not always honest, or having concern over the honesty of what's actually in our food that's disclosed on labels, or where things from the grocery store are actually coming from. So things like that where you can educate, but also you're telling your story. And you have a very powerful perspective too.
So maybe something that labels aren't straightforward.
But talking about how you feel about that.
Right.
So frustrated or concerned or whatever that is, like the feeling behind how you feel about food and where it comes from, but make sure it's something that's relatable to more people, because not everybody cares about organic standard or understands even what it's like to grow their own food. But that's a part of your story that you can share with people after they dig a little bit more, like, oh, that's so interesting. I've actually never thought about that. Or, oh, okay, I've actually had concerns about that too. And you can say, you know, I grow my food as much as possible on my farm, so I totally get it. You know, and so that can be kind of like a supplemental part of your story. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, good job. All right, you guys. So if you are looking for this template, I'm pretty sure we have it in Empowered to Lead. If not, you can Google it, Isagenix 30-second story or University in Action 30-second story. I'll try to get a good picture of it and post it in there. I just don't want to post one that's super blurry or weird, but I'll see if I can get a good picture of this template. And then that's going to be your challenge this week. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close off the call, and then we'll talk about the team challenge. So are there any other questions about your 30-second story? All right, you guys, this tool, why is this so important? Because your passion plus a tool, what is it, you guys? It's a bomb presentation. We worry so much about how we are presenting Isagenix and how we're presenting ourselves in this opportunity. And it's so important that if we have the passion and we have a tool, our presentation will always be bomb, always. Okay, and how do you have passion? Belief, confidence. And how do you get belief and confidence? Practice. Okay, so practice having this. This is the most important tool that you can have. We have amazing other tools as well. There's so many things at ISA Tools to Go app, isamovie.com, Isagenix Health, all these amazing websites. You don't have to remember all of them. Go to isagenixbusiness.com, go through that whole website. Every tool you need is in there, okay? This is amazing. This is in there too, actually. This is amazing because when you're talking to somebody and you're sharing, they don't necessarily have 5 minutes to watch, you know, Transform Your Life, or they don't have 15 minutes on the spot to watch Why Isagenix. But having this so that when people are like, oh, even after they watch the video, they're like, Della, I love that video. So what does Isagenix mean to you, or why do you love it so much? What are you going to say? Be like, oh, let me send you another video. No, you have to have this. This is the story. This is the tool that you should be using most often. Okay? So passion, you get passion from having belief and confidence. Okay? Ignorance on fire, however you glean up that passion in yourself. But that plus a tool, which is what you're going to practice, is a bomb presentation every time, you guys, okay? You can share Isagenix compliantly, effectively, excitingly, all of it, all right? So if you have any questions, please post them in the group. We're gonna go ahead and stop this call. Thank you all for checking out the recording.